Okay, let's dive right into this. If you were sitting there right now, staring at a completely blank Dungeons & Dragons character sheet for the very first time, I know exactly what you're feeling. You're looking at all those little boxes, the endless lists of skills, the saving throws, the equipment weights, and you are probably thinking, there are just way too many choices here. Honestly, it feels less like you're about to step into a magical fantasy world and a lot more like you're trying to do your taxes in a language you don't even speak. Well, welcome to this explainer on how to create your first D&D character without getting overwhelmed. Today, we are going to completely demystify this entire process for you. We're going to bypass all that complicated math, we're going to skip the endless optimization debates you see online, and instead, we are going to focus on the absolute most important part of this game, you and the incredible story you're about to tell.
So, the absolutely crucial point we need to start with is this idea right here. Your first character does not need to be perfect. It just needs to be someone you are excited to play. You know, it is so incredibly easy to fall into the trap of trying to build the quote-unquote strongest character. But here's the secret. D&D isn't a video game where you need to maximize your damage output just to beat the final boss. It's a collaborative storytelling experience. The best possible character you can make today is simply one that makes you smile when you think about them. We are taking a story-first approach here. We are going to build a person, not a spreadsheet.
Before we even think about touching a single 20-sided die or writing down a single number, we really have to remember what a character actually is. According to the core rules of the game, a character is simply a combination of game statistics, role-playing hooks, and your imagination. The numbers on the page, they are just the engine under the hood. They literally only exist to determine if your imagination succeeds or fails when you attempt something risky. But the imagination, that has to come first. That is the driver of the entire experience. Your character is your avatar in this world. They are your personal representative exploring those dark dungeons and ancient ruins. To get you playing quickly and confidently, we're going to use a really simple 4-step process today. Step 1 is concept. Step 2 is race and class. Step 3 is stats. And step 4 is details.
Starting right off with step 1, the vision, your first character concept.
So, before you even open the rulebook, I want you to close your eyes and just imagine a really broad fantasy concept. Think about the archetypes you already love in movies or books or shows. Do you want to be a brave, heavily armored warrior standing on the front lines? Maybe a sneaky scout who strikes from the shadows? A holy healer protecting their friends? Or, maybe a really curious mage? Let's use a practical example to guide us through this explainer together. Let's say we decide we want to play a young human fighter. They used to be a caravan guard, but now they want to step up and protect a local village from a rising monster threat. That's it. That is the whole concept. But notice how powerful this simple, single idea is. It immediately gives us a clear role, the protector. Whenever we face a confusing choice later on in the character creation process, we literally just look back at this anchor concept and ask ourselves, well, what would a young, protective former caravan guard choose? It makes everything else an absolute breeze. Moving on to step 2, the identity, choosing your race and class. First up in this step is your character's race, or species. Now this choice does a whole lot more than just dictate whether your character has pointy ears or a magnificent beard. It establishes your fundamental physical appearance, your lifespan, your cultural background, and your natural talents. For example, the source material notes that halflings are naturally stealthy, which makes them great rogues, while dwarves are famously resilient. In our anchor concept, we chose human. Humans are adaptable, they're ambitious, and they're common in the world. Choosing a race roots your character into the deep lore of the D&D multiverse right from the very start. Once you know who you are, you have to decide what it is you actually do. That is your class. Think of your class as your character's main adventuring job, and essentially their toolkit for surviving danger. Are you a wizard who spends years poring over ancient tomes just to cast spells? Are you a rogue who relies on agility and expertise to disarm traps and pick heavy locks? For our example, since our concept is a brave protector with a sword, the fighter class is the absolute perfect fit. The class dictates what armor you wear, what weapons you know how to use, and your specific combat style.
Now here is a really important tip for beginners. Please do not choose a complex class just because someone on the internet said it's highly optimized or super powerful. Simple combinations like a classic dwarf fighter or a human fighter create absolutely amazing stories. You do not need a convoluted mix of 3 different magic classes just to be a hero. Honestly, often the most memorable moments at the table come from simple characters relying on their wits, their bravery, and a trusty piece of steel.
Now we're on to step 3, the engine. We are going to demystify ability scores. Okay, take a deep breath.
We are going to de-weaponize the math right now and keep it incredibly intuitive. To understand ability scores, you really just need to understand the 20-sided die, or the D20. Whenever your character tries to do something where the outcome is uncertain, like kicking down a heavy oak door or dodging out of the way of a fireball, you roll this D20. The higher the number, the better you do. It's that simple. Your ability scores just give you a small bonus, which is called a modifier, that you add to that dice roll. Furthermore, if your class is highly trained in something, you get to add a proficiency bonus to the roll as well. So let's say you are naturally very strong and you are proficient in athletics. You get to add both of those bonuses when trying to break down that door. That is literally the core mechanic of the entire game. Roll a d20, add your modifier and your proficiency, and hope the total is high enough.
So what exactly are these 6 abilities? Let's break them down intuitively so you know what they actually mean in the real game world. Strength is your raw physical power and athleticism. Can you lift a giant boulder off a trapped villager? Dexterity is your agility, your reflexes, and your stealth. Can you walk across an icy surface without slipping, or palm a coin without anyone noticing? Constitution is your physical endurance and health. Can you win a tavern drinking contest or survive a grueling freezing long march? Intelligence is your memory, logic, and book learning. Can you recall ancient forgotten lore? Wisdom is your intuition, your common sense, and your physical senses. Can you spot a hidden goblin archer in the trees or tell if a merchant is lying to you? And finally, charisma is your charm, your social presence, and your ability to lead. Can you negotiate a peace treaty or intimidate a street thug? Every single character in the game has a unique mix of high and low scores across these 6 areas.
Now, you might be wondering, how do you actually get these numbers? The easiest, most beginner-friendly way is to use what the game calls the standard array. The game just gives you 6 numbers: 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. You just assign one of those numbers to each of the 6 stats we just talked about. And here is the golden rule: match your highest score to your class. For our human fighter who solves problems by hitting things with a sword, we put our highest number, the 15, right into strength. Maybe we put the 14 in constitution so we have high health to survive standing on the front lines. And hey, maybe we put our lowest number, the 8, right into intelligence. Our former caravan guard might be brave and strong, but maybe he just didn't spend a whole lot of time reading books. And you know what? That flaw is exactly what makes the character so much fun to play.
That brings us to step 4, the soul, choosing backgrounds and equipment. Up to this point, you've essentially built a machine. Now, we are going to give that machine a memory and a real place in the world. The rulebook states that every story has a beginning. Your background represents what your character did before they picked up a sword and decided to crawl into a dark, terrifying dungeon. Were you a criminal working in a thieves' guild? A scholar studying in a vast, silent library? For our example, our background is caravan guard, which might fall under the soldier or the folk hero background in the official rules. This choice answers the most important question. What changed? Why did you stop guarding caravans? Well, because monsters threatened the village and you realized you had to step up. This background also gives our fighter a few extra practical skills, like maybe animal handling for taking care of the caravan horses. It gives them history and texture beyond just swinging a weapon. Next, we have to look at your equipment. Now, beginners almost always focus solely on their weapons, but I really want you to think of it like this. Weapons are for solving monster problems, but tools are for solving world problems. Yes, absolutely, our fighter has a sword, and that's fantastic for when a goblin attacks. But what happens when the goblin runs across a deep chasm and cuts the rope bridge behind them? Well, you can't stab a chasm, right? That's why your equipment pack comes with 50 feet of hempen rope. D&D is all about creative problem solving, and your mundane equipment, your torches, your crowbars, your daily rations, those are just as important as your magical flaming sword. At this point, you might be wondering how you figure out what to buy with your starting gold. Listen to me carefully. Do not go shopping. As a beginner, trying to budget your starting gold across dozens and dozens of tiny items is a fast track to getting totally overwhelmed. Instead, just look at your class description. The game kindly provides starting equipment packages for you. It will literally say something like, choose A, a sword and shield, or B, 2 swords. Then choose A, an explorer's pack, or B, a scholar's pack. Just take the starting gear provided by your class and your background. It gives you literally everything you need to survive your first adventure and completely eliminates all the stress of fantasy shopping.
And finally, step 5, bringing them to life through personality and roleplay.
A major mistake the beginners make is filling out all the numbers on the character sheet, grabbing their dice, and just stopping right there. But if you sit down at the table without understanding the basic personality behind those numbers, you are going to freeze the very first time the dungeon master looks at you and asks, "So, what does your character say?" The numbers tell you how you do things, but your personality tells you why you do things. So give them a name and a physical description. Next, determine their ideal. What drives them at their core? For our fighter, their ideal might be protection. I must defend those who cannot defend themselves. Then give them a bond. What ties them to the world? I will do anything to keep my home village safe. And finally, arguably the absolute most important one, a flaw. What is their weakness? Maybe our fighter's flaw is that they are overly reckless when someone they love is in danger. Flaws are exactly what make characters memorable, relatable, and so much fun to roleplay.
This right here is the goal. Your character, fully realized, stepping out into a vast, mysterious world, ready to make their mark. By combining your anchor concept, your simple race and class choices, your intuitively placed ability scores, and a fleshed-out personality with real ideals and flaws, you have built someone truly unique. Remember, the goal was never to build an indestructible god of combat. The goal was to find your unique place in the story, to create a lens through which you can experience this amazing game world alongside your friends.
Let's quickly review our first character checklist. When you sit down with your blank sheet, just check these off one by one. 1. Start with a fun, clear anchor concept. 2. Select the race and class that best fit that concept. 3. Assign your standard array of ability scores, putting the highest number exactly where you need it most. 4. Choose a background to explain your past and grab your prepackaged starting gear. 5. Fill out your name, ideals, bonds, and flaws to really give them a soul. If you just follow these 5 steps, what originally seemed like an overwhelming mountain of rules becomes a perfectly manageable, highly structured, and actually deeply creative process.
If you found this breakdown helpful today and you want to continue your journey into Dungeons & Dragons, make sure to subscribe to The Young Master for more easy D&D character guides, class explanations, beginner tips, and step-by-step help for your first adventure. We are building an awesome community of new adventurers here, and we really want you to be a part of it. We've got plenty more guides coming that will completely take the stress out of learning the game.
I want to leave you with this final, vital thought to carry with you to your very first game session. The best first character is not the most optimized one. It is the one that makes you excited to sit down and say, "This is who I am in the story." Embrace your character's flaws. Laugh out loud when you roll a 1 on your D20. Celebrate like crazy when you roll a 20. You have your character built, but what dark dungeons and soaring dragons await them now that they are truly ready